Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This episode I wanted to try something a little different. So instead of sitting in my DM chair in front of my DM screen, I'm over by what my players have colloquially termed the Wall of Crazy, because it's just full of a bunch of random crap. This is where I store my maps, that way they're not just lying all over the floor. They're organized, kind of, not really. It's also where I'll store crests of various organizations. I have the Silver Companies up here, the Daylore Tribe, I have the Thornwatch. These are all organizations that exist in my world of Cairn. So, when last we left our heroes, the party comprised of Hoss, Bruce, and Joff had all been hired by Archmage Vargasel of the local Mages Guild to go find a man by the name of Duven Stall, an explorer who had recently gone missing a week or so ago. The party set off to the small village of Orlane, set in the base of the Cairncraig Peaks, and discover that not all is well in the region. They are attacked by kobolds twice, discover that Duven's stall has been captured and held hostage by bandits, and are also subsequently captured themselves. Discovering a new ally in the form of Lysander, the wood elf warlock, they have been able to free themselves from the bandits, as well as their friend Duven's stall, and head back to town. Having safely returned to town, they informed Lord Shaun of what had occurred to them, including that the bandits had been led by a man known as Agrid. Lord Shaun found this very interesting and immediately sicked as many of his town guard as he could to capture and bring Agrid back. The party found Lord Shaun's interest in Agrid quite engaging, and so decided that they would follow the town guard as they traveled to capture Agrid. They used the convenient excuse of having been hired to deal with the kobold brigands as the reason why they were following the town guard on their way through the woods. And that is where we'll pick up this session. It's a roughly 3-hour hike from the small village of Orlane through the woods and into the region where Agrid and his bandits had been left alive. The party has set off immediately in the morning, not far behind the town guards who had also left. As they are following the town guard's trail through the woods west where Agrid had been left, Lysander fills the party in on his story. As much as he is willing to share, that is. He tells the party that he is a warlock with a Fey pact with one of the powerful Archfey lords of the Summer Court of the Feywild. He made this deal because the Lord Feywild, Lord Oberon, had promised to save the woman he loved from certain death if he did so. Technically, Lord Oberon kept his end of the bargain. Lysander's love is currently held in stasis in the Feywild, and Lysander has to work for Lord Oberon, completing whatever tasks the Fey Lord demands. After some time, the party, having followed the town guard's trail and moving faster than a group of 6 heavily armed men, are able to catch up with the town guard. They decide to follow at a distance, stealthily, and attempt to spy on the town guard. However, this goes awry, and the town guard are able to immediately spot our heroes. Realizing that the jig is up, our heroes use the convenient excuse of hunting kobolds to move in and get close with the town guards. Town guard are of course happy to have any extra assistance, as these woods can be quite dangerous when hunted through. Hiking with the town guard for about another hour, they return to the site of the heroes' brave escape from last session. However, Agrid and his bandits seem to have disappeared. Investigating around for a little bit, our heroes are able to discover a fresh set of mastiff tracks that seem to have come back from the north. The obvious conclusion that our heroes have made is that the gnome, who had disappeared before the battle on the one remaining mastiff, had returned and freed the bandits. This is of course a perfectly natural conclusion and is exactly what happened, with the slight addendum that the bandits freed themselves from the poorly tied bonds before Sahir came and helped them out. Our heroes, now having seen that the town guard have failed in their mission and will be returning home empty-handed, have decided that they will continue on to the kobold lair. Following the trail that the bandits seem to have been dragging them through, our heroes begin to conclude that the bandits and the kobolds had actually been working together. They believe that if they had not broken free of their bonds, they would currently be prisoners of the kobolds. After another hour of hiking through the woods, they hear off in the distance, perhaps a mile out, the rumbling sounds of a waterfall. The party remembers that Lord Shaun had tried to deal with these brigands before and had learned that the kobolds were hiding out in the cave system behind the waterfall, so they conclude that they must be very close to the kobold lair. With night falling, our heroes decide that now would be a good time to rest and to assault the kobold lair in the morning. However, our heroes' rest does not go uninterrupted. In the middle of the night, while Hoss and Lysander are on watch, they realize that somebody is making their way towards the waterfall on horseback. They see a hooded figure on a horse, wearing a very dark brown and green hunting cloak. The party vaguely recalls having seen somebody wearing a cloak similar while in the tavern. However, they do not quite remember who it was, for they did not talk to them. For those of you who have run the adventure that I'm currently running, you may recognize the hooded stranger, not from being written into the module, but as a bit of heavy-handed foreshadowing on the part of the DM as to what will be coming soon. The party's stealth checks are higher than our hooded stranger's perception checks, and the hooded stranger continues along the road towards the waterfall. Our two heroes, Hoss and Lysander, watch as this hooded stranger disappears into the mists of the waterfall and does not reemerge. Our heroes, still being tired from the long day's march, head back to bed, and on the morning inform the rest of the party as to what they had seen. Our heroes are now aware that the kobolds are working with somebody who is not a kobold, for it was a humanoid figure riding that horse. However, this does not change the party's plan, and they continue towards the kobold lair in an attempt to assault the place. They stealthily evade one kobold patrol and realize that there is another kobold patrol on guard outside the waterfall. Our heroes launch an assault, immediately gaining a surprise round against the kobolds. However, 2 rounds into the battle, the kobold patrol that they had missed before reemerges and strikes again. However, our heroes are more than capable of dealing with some scale dropping such as these kobolds, and are able to quickly defeat the rest of the kobolds outside of the caves. Looking at the waterfall, they either don't comprehend or don't realize that there is a large entrance into the kobold warren through the waterfall, and they decide to take one of the smaller tunnels that jut out into the forest. Moving into the tunnels, they immediately trip a tripwire, which causes a bunch of bones to fall from the ceiling, clattering onto the ground. This is the sign that the kobolds inside the cave are fully aware of what's coming. Our heroes immediately rush forward, hoping to still gain some small edge of surprise over the kobolds. However, as they round the corner, they see a small swarm of kobolds, weapons drawn, teeth gnashing, ready for a fight. With a particularly ranged party, including Hoss, the crossbow shooter, Lysander, the warlock, Bruce, the druid who does not yet have wild shape, and Joff, the ranger, the party does have a little bit of a difficult time dealing with this many enemies. Joff quickly draws his weapons and gets into close combat, hoping to hold some of them off of our heroes. Bruce, though limited in his spellcasting abilities, does hold on for a thunder wave, preparing to kill as many of the kobolds as he can. Hoss draws his 2 short swords and tries to hold them off of the other 2 spellcasters, recognizing the fact that a giant walking robot in scale mail is a little bit harder to hit than 2 dudes in robes. Lysander, like any good warlock, uses his Eldritch Blast to great effect. However, 3 rounds into the combat, the fighting has attracted some unwanted attention. Before too long, the chanting of a name, Irontooth, echoes throughout the chambers, and out of the shadows from one of the caverns steps a gnarled, aged goblin. He is holding a scimitar in one hand, and the other hand a grimy black whip. This was actually a rather interesting character moment because one of the heroes, Hoss, had been planning on dual-wielding a whip and a short sword in combat. However, the rules as written do not allow heroes to use a whip in an offhand, because it is not a light weapon. So, when Irontooth steps out of the shadows, uses his scimitar to hit Joff, and then immediately uses his whip to strike at Hoss, it was a rather surprising moment for Hoss's character, Scott. However, this is exactly the moment that Bruce the Druid was waiting for. He uses the thunder wave that he had tucked away in his back pocket to immediately blast Irontooth into the stone wall. Now, this devastating thunder wave is enough to kill Irontooth in a single blast. However, it is also strong enough to knock Hoss into immediate unconsciousness, and if Bruce had rolled any higher, he would have killed Hoss outright. However, our heroes emerge victorious. All of the kobold guards remain dead, Irontooth the chieftain has fallen, and the heroes congratulate themselves on a job well done. However, not all questions have been answered. Where's the hooded stranger who came in here in the middle of the night? Where's her horse that she rode in on? We carefully watched the entrance. We didn't see them leave. After spending some time looking around the caves, they find what appears to be horse bones thrown into a garbage heap of some kind. The obvious implication here being that the kobolds ate the horse as food. And as for the hooded stranger, while investigating Irontooth the goblin's bedchambers, they find a small used vial with a very small amount of liquid still remaining inside. Bruce and Lysander, both very practiced in the arcane arts of one style and another, realize that this potion was probably some sort of escape plan on the part of the hooded stranger. The closest guess that they are able to determine is that it was some sort of gaseous form or misty step potion that allowed this hooded stranger to disappear without leaving the cave entrance. So, now that the heroes have dealt with the kobold tribe and killed their goblin chieftain Irontooth, they decide to start investigating, looking for treasure, as any group of adventurers are wont to do. They find a small locked chest, which, by using a crowbar, are able to open, and they discover a small hoard of silver coins, valuables like a gold chalice, a nice mask, all standard treasure stuff. Then they investigate Irontooth. They discover, first off, that he had a key. Of course he did. And they discover a communication. Now, this communication details that Irontooth was working with somebody else. Somebody who is probably not the hooded stranger, for you do not need to give a communication to somebody you are talking to. This note details that somebody by the name of Kalarel the Scion wishes our heroes dead. Referring to them as rat catchers and campaigners, he charged Irontooth with dealing with it, so that way they could no longer interfere. However, it seems that our heroes were a little bit more powerful than Kalarel had immediately estimated, seeing as Irontooth is now dead and our heroes are now slightly richer. Another piece of information is gleaned from this communique. Kalarel the Scion seems to be a follower of the demon lord Orcus, for he signed his paper, "May Orcus guide you." What this means, our heroes are slightly aware of. They know that Orcus is bad news, and that he is the demon lord of undeath. Party decides that another conversation with Valthrun the Prescient would probably be in order to learn exactly what is happening. And that's where we're going to end tonight's session. Our heroes have successfully dealt with the kobolds, however, they seem to have raised more questions than they have answered at this point. There's at least one, probably two people who seem to be having some sort of nefarious scheme going on in this region that they might need to deal with. So, who is the hooded stranger? What is Kalarel doing? Will Orcus actually have any impact on this campaign? Tune in next time to find out exactly what happens. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe, leave any questions you have in the blah blah down below. I would love to answer them as long as they deserve to be answered. I'm not going to tell you how the campaign ends, but I will tell you any questions for clarification so you understand what's going on. Keep an eye out. The campaign diaries are still ongoing. I hope you guys all have a lovely day, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video. But until then, take care.